To Be Hero X, or To Bian Yingxiong X, I apologize to the entire country of China for how I pronounce that, but this is the first Chinese animated series that I've watched and I've been enjoying it a lot. And let's start right there, which is, some people refer to this as anime, which I disagree with, but I understand where they're coming from. In my opinion, the term anime usually goes for a geographical description, as in animation from Japan, or you go for a more thematic description, as in a certain style of animation which you immediately identify as anime. Some people, for example, say that Avatar: The Last Airbender is anime because of the way it's animated and its themes and how they perceive it. I can see where they're coming from. I personally don't agree. Some people even go a step beyond that and say that stuff like Ben 10 or even Samurai Jack is anime, which I also don't agree with, but I can see where people are coming from. To Be Hero X has a very distinct style of animation in which sort of flips between the 3D style and the 2D style, which we are more used to as being related to anime. The 3D style they use is a lot similar to what I would say is perhaps Arcane style animation, which is not bad by any means, but I wouldn't say it's anime per se. So to me, while I don't consider To Be Hero X an anime, even though it is starting to use more and more 2D animation as the episodes progress, I still don't consider it an anime, but there's nothing wrong with this because we can enjoy things even if they are not anime, right? We are capable of enjoying multiple things from multiple different genres in multiple different countries. That's the beauty of today's global media, and so I don't consider it anime, just I don't consider Arcane anime, but I enjoy it anyway. Because this is a Chinese production, you can see certain cultural differences in the humor and facial expressions and delivery, which I found to be very amusing. You can see, for example, I think it's right in the first episode, one of the characters is very pissed off and he does this, and I don't know if this was just a amusing form of censorship for the middle finger, or if Chinese people, when they're angry, they actually do this. So you have to be careful if you drink your tea or coffee in a very posh way like this. Do not do this in China, maybe you'll offend a random passerby, which is not nice. The animation itself is also very visually stimulating, and it has this almost meta shift between 3D and 2D, which I believe will eventually play out into the actual story itself. I think when series take this 3D style to its absolute limit, it can be very entertaining, and once again, To Be Hero X's flip between the two styles is very daring and very creative, very original. I like it a lot, but I am always a bit hesitant and a bit worried that this more Arcane style of animation will perhaps be so popular because of Arcane's success among many others that it will start becoming the industry standard, because I greatly enjoy 2D animation a lot more. In fact, even all the way back when I was a kid, growing up with stuff like the Prince of Egypt, Bambi, Mulan, all of those old movies, when they started transitioning to the more Toy Story style 3D animation, I stopped enjoying animated movies as much because to me, I just don't like the aesthetics as much. And I cannot rationalize exactly why, but it's a visual preference I've had ever since I was a kid, and it just stuck with me. I just love 2D animation so much, and even though I can appreciate both styles, and I think the 3D should also be used here and there, I just hope it doesn't become the norm because I just love 2D so much. To Be Hero X's animation, regardless if it's 3D or 2D, is very chaotic, very frenetic, very over the top. Just like its animation is very flashy, its storytelling is also very flashy itself. It reminds me of something like Dan Dan Dan, where the storytelling is very fast-paced, we're always moving to the next event. Sometimes things are just happening in sequence and you're a bit confused, but you still go along with it because it's entertaining. Like on one moment we have a dude who's quitting his job, next he's a hero, next he's on a talk show, next he's romancing this girl. Things just keep happening and everything is very fast and very frenetic, but because it grabs the viewer's attention and because it keeps being entertaining, I don't mind it so much. I think, for better or for worse, this is the future of storytelling, and to be quite honest, in between this and those horrible older anime which were just super slow paced, where everything just dragged and was slow and boring and had a million filler, honestly, I prefer the new method. So let's keep it like this. I think it is very fun, and even though some things are sometimes a bit confusing because once again we just move from item to item without properly explaining everything, I think it is still entertaining, and I think sacrificing a bit of explanatory exposition for brevity and entertainment is a worthy trade-off to make. And speaking of younger audiences, and it feels like everything is very connected, this series is very, very well thought out. Its premise mixes this superhero theme, which has been used and abused by many creators from every country in the world. This is a very common trope, but it mixes this superhero theme with this sort of social media theme, where the power of the heroes and sometimes even their abilities and constraints, which is also very interesting, is restricted by their popularity and the amount of people that believe in them. Belief can be quantified through a number and actually affects the hero's powers, which is a super fascinating premise, and it takes something that is old news, such as the superhero genre, and mixes it with this element of very up-to-date, very relevant social media, and it just becomes even more interesting. I love this premise, and I think up until now, I've watched up until episode 6, 7, I think it's being very well executed. Also, I have to mention regarding its storytelling is that once again it is very well adapted to the new age of social media and the attention span of younger audiences, because every single episode feels like it ends in a cliffhanger, which is not something bad by any means, and it's not something new by any means, let's be honest here, but it feels like it has this almost modern take where every single episode leaves the viewer a little bit blue-balled, a little bit wanting more, because we always end in a cliffhanger. Up until now, once again, I've watched only the first few episodes, I think it has done that well. There has never been any really awkward moments where it feels like perhaps we're dragging or cutting something a bit too short just to end in that precise moment to leave the viewer wanting more. I think up until now the story has been well-paced, even if a bit fast, but it has been well-paced and well-structured, so I don't have any problem with it. I think an anime that really stuck in my memory because of this was Ranking of Kings, which came out a few years ago, and this anime, although it was good and I enjoyed it, I thought it was good and had some great moments, but it also fell into this almost the trap of ending every single episode in a cliffhanger, and its storytelling was sometimes a bit convoluted, where characters would do like a 180 on their personality just so you would have the twist at the end of the episode. So I think that is an example of a series that tried perhaps a little bit too hard with it. I think To Be Hero X is a lot more reasonable. Up until this point, once again, I haven't watched the whole thing, but up until this point, there has never been a moment where I thought a character did something that was out of place, or any moment in the storytelling that felt particularly awkward. I think the cliffhanger endings have been very good and have greatly engaged my interest in the series. Speaking of its characters, To Be Hero X does this very peculiar thing which very few series have the courage or inclination to do, which is it has a bunch of characters, but it doesn't have a set main character. We are following each different character's story arc, we have a mini story arc so that we grow attached to and get to know every single hero, and it is my expectation, I believe, that at the end of the series there will be a big tournament or a big confrontation of some kind where all of the heroes will beat each other up and fight for supremacy or whatever, so that's going to be very entertaining. And seeing this ambitious multiple character storytelling done well almost feels like vindication for me, because last year I greatly praised Ishura, which I still think is one of the most underrated, underutilized, and most botched anime of last year. It also had a similar premise, but the production value was just mediocre at best, nowhere near the level of To Be Hero X, but I think this proves that the premise of having multiple characters, introducing them through mini arcs and then converging them all at the end, I think this proves the premise can work. Once again, I haven't watched the entirety of To Be Hero X, I hope it doesn't fall down a cliff, I hope this ages well, but I think the premise can work with the right level of attention and production value attached to it. The only downside to having multiple characters is that I noticed this a lot in the YouTube comments or in X comments, for example, is that there seem to have been a lot of promotional material over the years for a lot of these characters, and I just haven't watched any of that. And sometimes people are talking and referencing things like I'm supposed to know what they're talking about. I hope that there isn't any mandatory homework for this series to be enjoyed. I think up until this point they have done a great job introducing every single character, their backstory and what they're about. I hope they don't leave anything locked in behind some extra material on YouTube or Bilibili or whatever they put this stuff. I hope that the series can stand on its own without needing for any extra material to be watched to comprehend the story, for example. I think that the series should be able to be its own standalone thing, and if there's some cute side stories that more dedicated fans want to watch, then that's fine, they can go watch them, but I don't think, and I hope that they don't lock in any really important story points behind some extra promotional material. Finally, and I do have to address this, the opening for this series is my opening of the season. It is just incredible. Inertia is once again one of Sawano's bangers, an absolute banger of a song. I was not a huge fan of, for example, Solo Leveling's opening 1. I don't think it was Sawano's best work, even if it was still good, but I don't think it was his best work. But this one, oh boy, we are back to his golden touch. This song is stuck in my head 24/7, but it's so good. I love the opening, love the animation once again, the flips between 3D and 2D and how just flashy and impactful everything is, and the song is so incredibly catchy, so good, and it fits the series so well. I just love the opening. So overall, To Be Hero X is amazing and is setting itself up to be one of the best animated series of the season, perhaps even of the year. With its fast-paced, concise, entertaining and impactful storytelling, its beautiful, also frenetic and flashy animation both in 3D and 2D style, and its banger soundtrack and banger opening. So I've been enjoying it a lot. I want to give a huge shout out and a thanks to every single one of you who recommended this anime to me, as I've been enjoying it a lot, and maybe I'll do more videos about it if you guys want to. So until then, be sure to follow me, links in the description, like, subscribe, ciao!